Coming to you live from the International Broadcast Center at the top of Death Mountain, it is our distinct pleasure to welcome you to the bracket presentation broadcast of the 2019 Link to the Past Randomizer spoiler tournament here on the Speed Gaming family of networks, the Spoiler Log Tournament. We'd like to thank you for coming to check out our upcoming event, and would like to also invite you to stay for a showcase race immediately following this broadcast, between two of our top finishers in the qualifier phase that took place from March 8th to March 24th. And we're also going to give you a full listing of the full bracket, as well as some interesting facts about our runners, including a few jabs at themselves. I am Cyclone, and I'll be with you throughout the broadcast today, and will later be joined by another top runner and one of our many potential winners of this entire tournament. And I'll talk more about that later. For now, I have with me my fellow co-administrators and of this tournament, and the people who thought up this idea in a back room at Awesome Games Done Quick back at the start of January. I'm referring, of course, to both Kern and Synak. How are you both doing today?
I'm doing really well. Kern, same?
Yeah, same Z's. I can't wait for this to kick off on April 1st. I'm very excited. Like, thinking about, you're mentioning the first spoiler race that we did at AGDQ. Obviously not the first spoiler race ever, but it's really fun that this has turned into a tournament from there.
I agree. I'm looking forward to seeing how many of our well-known runners of the community are already, who are known for routing unknown randomly placed items in chests in the game, now route the seeds, knowing where everything is after a quick study period. I'm looking forward to seeing how everyone does.
Yeah, and for folks who don't know what we're talking about, when we're talking about the AGDQ spoiler run that we did. So that was this year, 2019 AGDQ, where it was like the final full day we had at AGDQ. There was a bunch of us in the casual room, all rando folks doing a spoiler run. In fact, some of the people who are in this tournament were also there in the room. So it's not just us, admins here. But that was a lot of fun. There was a ton of people. I would say there's probably 15 people racing, maybe more, which is great. For a live race, how often does that happen? And that was a ton of fun. It was a lot of people's first spoiler race as well. And Christos Owen took first place in that kind of cold spoiler run there.
Of course.
And he's in this tournament. Yeah, exactly, right? That's exactly what you'd expect.
Death Taxes and Christos Owen wins a race at GDQ.
Yeah, so Synak and I just, we're talking afterwards, and he's like, well, let's start a tournament, and that's how this whole thing began. So very excited that this is a real thing now, a couple months later.
Oh, indeed. So, do you want to get this this party started here?
Yeah, let's get this started. I think you want to talk to us about how this exactly works.
Yeah, so what is a spoiler race? Well, it's simple. We give the racers the spoiler log. Who would have thought, right? We give that to them 15 minutes prior to them actually running, and that is given to them via IRC. We wrote a special bot just for doing this, and that spoiler log has some quality of life adjustments in it, some changes, some things you don't see in a normal spoiler log to make things easier to parse by our runners. They're allowed to watch that and look at that spoiler log and reference it throughout the run, and they're not allowed to use any automatic tools to parse that log. They have to do the work on their own.
Yeah, and these spoiler races can be very different than a normal race or a blind race. I mean, partly because we know where all the items are, but it also provides some interesting opportunities that aren't normal. So normally we think about stream sniping as cheating. Well, in this game mode, it is totally fine to watch your opponent's stream or the broadcast, if you're being restreamed. And that could be a legitimate part of strategy. And in that way, it feels a little bit more like an NMG race, in that runners can interact with chat. That's been really fun to see in these daily races. And maybe we'll get a little bit of that in the exhibition match we have today as well. And it's one of the great things about spoiler races that I find is that it's also similar to an NMG kind of run in that it's very execution focused. A lot of times winners decided by who can defeat the game with the fewest safeties executing the best. But there's also this element of routing, which I think is really interesting. So apart from NMG, which you don't necessarily need to have the most game knowledge in the world to be a really good NMG runner, you just need to practice all the rooms and have optimal strats. I say just, that's very difficult. But in a spoiler race, you also need to have that game knowledge element. You need to know all the sequence breaks. You need to know generally what is the fastest route to get to point A from point B, how much time you can save with the boots, which has been a really interesting element of strategy. Do I go get the boots early? Is it worth it? And so I find all of that really, really fun. So because of the format that we have, we don't actually need to have a race delay like you've seen in a lot of other spoiler tournaments. So we're just going to be watching them live, and then the runners can comment on it live as well.
That's going to be a lot of fun too, being able to see the runners' commentary in the channel as the race is going on. It's not often with Randomizer you get to see that, so a really, really cool aspect of that too. So moving on to our next slide here, we're going to talk about a little bit of an overview as to how the qualifiers worked. Each runner in the tournament, I'm going to talk about this in a second, we had about 39 of them, 39 unique people submitting a run in this qualifier phase. They each played the same 3 qualifier seeds over a 17-day period, March 8th to March 24th. The players were allowed, in this particular case, because it was not really, it was kind of hard to say you only get 15 minutes to study the log during this period when you have 2 weeks to do the races. So we decided to open it up and allow runners to study the logs as much as they could, practice the seeds, get used to doing this kind of a speed running format. They practiced as much as they wanted, but at the time they chose, they were only permitted that one official attempt at each seed. There was a retry allowed. The way the retry worked is that a runner who did not like one of their runs ended up having to, they were allowed to say, okay, I want to retry seed number 2, let's say. There were time for seed number 2. If they got like a 50-minute time, they thought they could get 48. Their seed was thrown out, and if they ended up getting a 51, that was their official time. So the first seed was thrown completely out. Second race was the one that was accepted in that case. One retry was allowed. So when a player was ready to code, a request was made by the player for the code for their official run. This was scored for the qualifier. It could be streamed either to Twitch, which a lot of runners did, or to unlisted YouTube, which some did as well. If a runner was not happy with their run, or if technical issues were encountered, which does happen, again, they could retry one of the runs as noted. And I kind of touched on that earlier with the old time being thrown out. So there was always risk involved in doing a retry. One more note is an incomplete or unsubmitted run was scored as the slowest run of that seed plus 30 minutes. So if the longest time that someone took hypothetically was 1 hour and 20 minutes, that means it was scored as 1 hour and 50 minutes.
All right, so go ahead.
Oh, no. I was going to pick it up, but it looked like you're already on it.
Yeah, so there were 3 qualifier seeds. We just kind of have a few statistics on each one that we kind of wanted to go through. So qualifier seed 1, all 3 of them, by the way, they were lampless. There was no lamp. They were all out of the way. In fact, for seed 1, it was on SAHASRAHLA. You had to go to Skullwoods to do that. Skullwoods had nothing else of value in it for the most part except a sword. So most of our runners skipped that and just had to do it without the lamp.
Yeah, I would say out of all of the sequence breaks that you might want to know for a spoiler run, Dark Rooms is, I think, the most important.
Oh, indeed. Some players did choose to use the spoiler log knowledge as well. So in the spoiler log, we give players the ability to see also what the drops are. For example, the stun prize, the tree pulls. Also, it's the prize for saving the fish by throwing it back into the water after you drain the swamp. So, drain the dam. So, some players chose to use that knowledge. Some of their top players actually decided that was actually slower still. Which was, so there was some early route divergence even throughout the qualifier phase, even though you kind of got to see what other people were doing.
Yeah, and we should probably clarify. I don't think we had it in our slide deck, but these runs were done for folks who might not know. I see a lot of runners here who already know, but I'm sure there are people watching who did not. who did not run in the qualifiers, but all those races were done. Wow, excuse me. They were all done asynchronously, so that was a part of our tournament. Our qualifier setup to allow people to schedule easier. So when Synac's talking here about route divergence, he knows about this because him and also the qualifier submission verifiers, who are just amazing volunteers who've helped us out, have actually watched these. And I know that Synac was in the chat for a lot of watching live a lot of these people run, and he was able to do that because these were all done asynchronously.
I'm not sure how many times I typed GLHF in people's chats.
Well, as long as you typed it for everybody, then it's not, it's not biased, right?
Yeah, sure. So we had some interesting statistics. So you only could use one retry, like we said before. So on this seed, 6 people chose this one as their retry. I know 2 of them were due to technical issues, but 4 of them decided just to do it. Both Asdar and Galan had the lowest collection rate on the seed, and Keon kind of crushed it with the fastest time.
Looks like ZELGADISSAN is still in chat. He's one of the people who retried number 1. So yeah, even top runners will feel they can do a seed better and want to try and improve that time.
Yeah, and for the folks who are looking at the graph, we've got the collection rate on the y-axis and the real-time seconds on the x-axis, and there is a bit of a relationship. Like if you were to plot a line, you would see that it is like on average, there is some linear increase there. It's not the end of the world, but there's definitely a relationship. But also, like, interesting how in this seed, it seems like there are some really spread out times. And I mean, I don't know what we could chalk that up to, other than maybe it's just the first seed that most people are going to run. It could be the seed itself. I don't know.
Yeah, and you also see, we'll go into slide 2 here, but yeah, C2 was really similar. Like you had like the close-up pack. Mentos Man did a 48 out of 216 collection on his run. There's only 3 retries on this one, and I'm gonna chalk that one probably up to people being more comfortable after submitting their first one, because most people did the runs linearly, one after another. You didn't have to do that. You could do them in whatever order you wanted, but a vast majority did the first one first.
We had some doing that on the very last day, actually. I think I saw at least 3 runners who on Sunday evening, the 24th, just did all the runs one after another and sent them in.
There was a decent number of last-minute submissions, Chris.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Chelsea also some late submissions, if I remember correctly. Yeah, I just you're telling us about these I didn't get to watch all the qualifier seeds. I didn't have that privilege. I didn't have the time, unfortunately. But you were telling us that, I think this is interesting, that because we divulge in our spoiler logs, which is not normal for randomizer spoiler logs, but in our tournament, we divulge the number of digs required, and that people use that to optimize the digging game.
Oh, that was pretty great.
Yeah,
so how do you...
Not every day you get to see someone plan the last dig right above the fence where they jump off. That's really cool to see.
Also, the lamp was also nowhere to be found in this one, kind of like the rest. And Ice Palace was also a common theme, that Ice Palace wasn't required at all for any of the 3 seeds as well.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. So, Mike, if you're bad at Ice Palace, it was your luck this time around.
That's it's always interesting to see if Ice Palace is required and what risk people will take. I actually remember one of the daily races, and I think it was the 3rd one we had in the daily race series, that flippers were sitting on Vitreous and Ice Palace was required, but Swamp Palace was not required. I think almost every single runner in that race fake flippered Ice Palace. So it's really interesting to see strategies like that come into effect in some of these races as well.
Yeah. So on to the 3rd seed. This one actually was a lot faster than the other 2. Again, Lamp wasn't to be found, but there was a really interesting decision to be made in regards to how early you did Eastern, or did Pod, and if you did Pod before or after Swamp Palace, because Swamp Palace had the Fire Rod, which made Dark Turtles a lot easier to do. But if you did Eastern Palace first, you got access to the boots faster. So there were some interesting decisions to be made. Some chose one path, some chose the other. our top runner did in fact do the first route, where he did do Eastern and Pod first before Swamp.
So in the big thing there would be Dark Turtles, right? Am I correct? Oh no, yeah, right. Because you're going to get the boots at Helma, and that's really tough when you don't have the Fire Rod.
Exactly, and that was in Swamp Palace, so some runners did opt to go for Swamp Palace first. And consequently, this one got our most retries. We had several players that died several times. The Dark Turtles just reset and just did the run again and just took the retry right there.
Understandable.
The interesting thing about our, about the setup here is that, not only could you have retried, you got one retry for all 3 seeds, but that you had the opportunity to practice some of these things. So, like, I would say ordinarily, if it was a live run, you might not even think about like, oh, I'm going to skip all this stuff if it wasn't a spoiler race. I'm going to skip all this stuff, go Dark Turtles. I imagine even in the tournament, it would be a huge risk. Like, I'd be very surprised to see, somebody, even Kyong, decide to do Dark Turtles no Fire Rod in a live run where they don't get to practice that. But the beauty of this, or at least a difference of this, is that you could have practiced that with, you could have practiced 5 Hearts Fire Rodless Dark Turtles just to remind yourself, is this practical? How often do I get it? How often do I miss it?
All right, so off to the next slide. I think so.
We're going to take a moment now to present some information about our top 8 players in the race, including things like their favorite sprites and some information. I know, Kern, you collected a lot of this information, so we're going to let you pretty much take the reins on it.
All right, if I don't mind if I do. So yeah, our number 8, starting with number 8, Ben Teasy, got some great times, all sub 50, and this like kind of a theme for top 8. When I think about spoiler races, even before this tournament, I think of the bar as being sub 1. Like sub 1 is the sub 2 of spoiler races, in that it's not always possible. Like if you get a really bad seed, you can't do it, but that's what you're shooting for. It's like a sub 6 escape, it's just a good benchmark. But I'm surprised at how often we have seen, like, just the quality of runners, that there are these sub 50 times, which to me is just ridiculous. And Bentizi actually was one of the runners that was at the AGDQ, live spoiler run. So Christos did win, but Bentizi came in a very close second with like less than 1 minute apart, which was pretty incredible. So yeah, let's move on. Moving on to PIKAPALS. So came in 7th, also like sub 50 times. He got a 46.34 on Qualifier 3. That's crazy. Told us that his favorite tech is darkroom navigation and hookshot clipping. And it's a good thing that PIKAPALS likes darkroom navigation, not only because of these 3 seeds, but because I am positive that this is going to come up quite a lot. Apparently, and he was telling us that he joined the first spoiler race that Christos hosted. But he hasn't played much since then. But I think it's just really interesting because that must have been a while ago. I don't know how early on in the development of the randomizer they were doing spoiler races. But I know that there's been a fairly consistent community for at least a few years now who does them a few times a month. So yeah, moving on to number 6, we've got PINKKITTYROSE, aka PKR. The only time in the top 8 that we have a not sub 50 with this 50.02, still incredible time. I just think it's incredible.
2 seconds, yeah, only by 2 seconds.
That's insane to me. Like, I mean, if I do a spoiler run and I get, a 50-minute flat, and this is her worst time. Favorite game mode, entrance, crossroad, key sanity, because PINKKITTYROSE is insane and like self-punishment apparently. But in all honesty, that game mode is pretty fun.
He's also Canadian, so I like that aspect myself, being one myself.
So I guess Canadian shout-outy stuff there. I thought it was interesting. PKR was telling us that she had never done anything speedrunning before playing a randomizer. And as somebody who that's the same as well for me, I'm finding that a lot of the top runners, that's not true. Like, they've come from other speedrunning backgrounds. So fist bump.
We'll talk about that a little more later because I know we've compiled some facts of all of the runners in the tournament. They're just going to go through those quickly before we wrap up as well. So, but yeah, I agree. It's a very interesting fact for Pink Kitty Rose, and we'll talk about that a little bit more in just a moment. So, moving on, did you want to continue? You want me to take this?
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Yep. So number 5 in the top 8 is Zero Rush, and again, as back to the theme, all of our runners, or most of our runners, having the times in the sub 50. In terms of Zero Rush, qualifier number 3 was his slowest run, which is really interesting when you think of the fact that for Kyong, that was literally the fastest run of the entire set of qualifiers. That was Zero Rush's slowest time, with barely cracking sub 50 by 23 seconds there. With the other 2 seeds getting the exact same time. And he loves using tech in the Dark World and things related to the Bombable Hut ledge, doing quick hop at the Bombable Hut. So he uses very interesting tech in his runs as well to improve those times.
Yeah, I gotta say, man of culture. The Dark World Bombable Hut ledge quick hop, that is that's not easy. That's not an easy quick hop to get. And I'm not even sure that when you get it, it saves time. Or if it does, I'm sure it's like frames. But I just gotta say, like, man of culture right there.
And moving on, we have ACMLM, a long-time runner in the community, top-tier runner for sure, very well known in the community. He is a runner who likes the inverted game mode, which I'm a fan of the logic of it. I just will never play it because I'm bad. But something that I'm going to touch on later, he's also interested in the 2x speed mode. I've included a fact for that in our list of facts for when we discuss when we go over the bracket parts of the tournament here. So I'm going to talk about that a little bit more in that phase as well. And he uses one of the link sprites.
All right, number 3, we got ZELGADISSAN. So favorite item, hookshot. He's talking about, how it's really nice when you have a boots. You get like early boots, right? But in lieu of that, at least you have the hookshot. And I think there's a lot of really interesting tech that you can use with the hookshot to speed things up. He wanted us to make sure that we introduce him as the top 8 runner who is least likely to live up to the seeding expectation. That is not, I don't think that's a fair assessment. But you know what? He asked us to say that, so you got it. You got it, Zelga. He's just trying to downplay it so he seems like the underdog when he wins, But yeah, moving on to number 2. So second seed after the qualifiers is Gerdo. He has only played one single spoiler race that he says Christos Owens set up around 10 years ago. So prior to this tournament happening, that was his experience with spoiler running. And he didn't have too much to tell us about the seeds other than he thinks that seed number 3 sucked, and I'm sure that we can get some shout outs for seed number 3 in the chat here. And that he's pretty sure that Pink Kitty Rose is going to win. That's his bet.
Yeah, that's his bet. Pink Kitty Rose, top tier runner for sure. And I have watched the stats for a lot of the daily spoiler races we did. And she's either a winner or near the top every single time. So she is definitely a force to look out for in this tournament. Speaking of Pink Kitty Rose, and that's Gerdo's prediction for your eventual champion here. So moving on to our last runner before we reveal the brackets.
Surprise, surprise! It is Kyong. I mean, you'd think that with 2 of the best times, of the qualifier seed number 1 and number 3. So Kyong, I think, amazing runner, right? And also developer of the Z3R sim, which if you have not used that, even if you don't play rando, it's really fun to like click through and try to figure out how you would route through a seed. But I got to chalk up a part of this, right, to the fact that this guy's really familiar with spoiler logs, right?
Indeed.
This is what he does. Like, this is what his tool's all about. It's like going through a spoiler log and figuring out what your route is. And I'm sure that of time logged in the Z3R sim, I'm sure that he's up there as among the most users, having been the person who developed it. So yeah, definite favorite from, real clear seed number 1, definite favorite, I think. going into the brackets. But let's get in there. Enough
Let's
talking
get into the
about
brackets because we got to get this moving wrapped up because we got another. I got a race showcasing this right behind this. So we're going to start with the KAKARIKO well division here, and the first bracket we just talked about him, Kyong, is as you mentioned, he created the Z3R sim. He also, which is basically a good way to have all the fun of playing a seed with none of the Moldorm Falls. He also is going to be playing Sabatender in this first round of the brackets, 1 versus 32. Sabatender was the one who squeaked in at the end as number 32. You recognize him from the main Link to the Past Randomizer tournaments. I remember seeing him, for example, in the fall tournament as one of the administrators. However, here in the Spoiler Log tournament, he's here for one purpose and one purpose only, to get his butt kicked by Kyong. Moving on to the next bracket, we have Wolfie. Wolfie, along with Amazing Ampharos, created the entrance randomizer, and there are rumors, and I don't know this for a fact myself, but there are rumors that he may have created the first seed for the entrance randomizer by hand. Now, some in chat may know that, may correct me if that's wrong, but that's just information that I've been given, so we're going with that. Frami, meanwhile, played with Kyong in the 2 versus 2 mystery tournament. I know that I and a couple other users were administrators of that tournament, and that was in March, April 2018. Frami and Kyong won that tournament. Surprise, it's Kyong. Frami is also said to have developed the common opening meta for overworld glitches, entrance key sanity, and open key sanity modes. And these two, by the way, played each other in 2018 in the spring tournament. Frami won the series 2-0, and one of those games he won by 27 seconds. So Wolfie, I'm sure, wants to even the score with this tournament. And moving on to the next bracket here, we have Bentizi. Bentizi, whenever Bentizi's been in a tournament in the past, Gem has usually had his number and found a way to get him out of the tournament. This time, Gem is not competing, so maybe this will be the time Bentizi will finally win a tournament. We'll have to see. Rolkin, meanwhile, has been told by viewers that he does not seem very excited when he does commentary. So he has in turn promised to me that he will make his bracket races as boring as possible to watch to complement his unexcitement. And finally, we have Super Nin Taylor in the KAKARIKO Well division. We have Super Nin Taylor, who remembers playing Link to the Past on console as a young child. He memorized the location of everything and then didn't play again for over 20 years with the randomizer. So he kind of like fell in love all over again, hasn't looked back since. Aktaboker, meanwhile, is a well-versed runner in the community who has one primary weakness, according to him, and that is that anytime King Zora has the hammer, he laughs uncontrollably. So if you're an opponent in a seed that has King Zora with the hammer, you probably have an advantage.
All right, moving on to the SAHASRAHLA'S Closet division. At number 4, we've already talked about ACMLM, and they are going up against literally Jen, who likes to check the Lumberjack first when viewing the spoiler log because a fire rod got overlooked there, and then leading to an Aghanim fight at 2 hours just to get to go mode. So I think that's kind of funny. They start there. Next up, we got in 13th place, qualifying seed, Ninbon versus Gamer Cal. Ninbon, incredible runner. I'm not just saying that because he whooped my butt in the spring tournament, but very good runner. He told us that one of his first races, he had the hook shot in the chest before Moldorm 2, and he just didn't even realize it because he wasn't familiar enough with the randomizer yet. And so he went up, won the race by 30 minutes just because he totally forgot about an item requirement. But he actually knows how to hover now, which I did not know that. I think that's pretty cool. And Gamer Cal, loved commentator, loved speedrunner in the community, has a lot of great tutorial videos that I really love as well. And he actually uses physical notes in a notebook for spoiler log races, which I think is pretty cool. So ZERORUSH, 5th place. We've already talked about ZERORUSH. Going up against Dragon Co. May be a fierce competitor, but is actually not a dragon at all. So apparently he's a koala. Shady Force in 12th seed. Notes that his favorite random format is the spoiler log race, so he's looking forward to this tournament. But he says his only problem is he's bad at routing. So good luck. One Up, going up against One Up in 21st seed. Managed to compete in the group phases of the fall tournament, which is an accomplishment for sure. He is quite happy that he doesn't have to worry about last location in the hookshot on Catfish during the tourney.
So moving on to the Hype Cave division, we're now in the Dark World conference, as we'll call it here, Light World, Dark World. So we have Gerdo versus Still Had All These. Gerdo, one of our top 8 runners again, has played races using a keyboard instead of a controller, and his personal opinion is the hovering should be banned. I'm sure there's many who would argue otherwise for that. Still Had All These is a former semi-pro Magic the Gathering player. This is obviously a card game where you fight each other with wonderful, well, you know what Magic is, I don't need to tell you about it. So he has appeared at multiple Pro Tour and National Championship events. I understand he doesn't play anymore, but he has in the past been a very good player at that. So probably still would be hard to play against. Moving on to Matt7898 versus Weighty Words. This is our, I think it's 15 and 18 we're looking at here. Matt7898 tells us that he used to race sailboats at one point. One time he crashed into a buoy and had to be rescued during the race. It's worth noting, he says, that this sailboat race went better than 2 of his qualifiers. Weighty Words, meanwhile, claims he's never lost a tournament race that has had a restream. So if we are somehow able to show all of his races, I think we can confirm he's going to be the champion at this point. Maybe. Moving on to PIKAPALS, he has placed second in a special event called the SRL Season 2. It's a tournament where one had to learn 9 speed runs across 9 weeks, and then in a final playoff tournament featuring those 9 games compete. He came second, which is pretty darn good if you ask me. And F. Coffin, you know him as Fred. He is the developer of the Zelda 1 Randomizer and the Super Mario Bros. 3 Randomizer, possibly others as well that I'm not thinking of. And fans often yell at him when vanilla things happen, even in other randomizers. He has also shown in the past, a little over a year ago now, that he has a pitch-perfect Elmo voice, and that's my personal opinion. Others may beg to differ. And on the final race on this Hype Cave division, we have Salty Fry, who says he's always certain to have an interesting run anytime he plays. In fact, he seems to agree that his stream motto could potentially be "Derps always included." Mentos Man, meanwhile, is known for a loss to Amazing Ampharos in the spring tournament. The reason this loss is notable is because he sometimes forgets how to count. He went for a double on Ganon after picking up 3 hits, meaning that he really only needs a single and therefore doesn't know how to count. 3 Ganon hits. And before you intro this, Curran, just a quick note on, go ahead, send it to the last slide. Pyramid Fairy Division. I'm going to give you in chat a period of this slide to figure out the theme between our 4 divisions here. So go ahead, Curran.
All right, so yeah, Pyramid Fairy Division. We got ZELGADISSAN in third seed versus Quizbull. We already introduced Zelga. Quizbull and his wife just got new Zelda-themed wedding bands, which I think we have a photo of. I don't know if Sinek can pull that up. Yeah, hey, look at that. That's so cool. Oh my God.
Yeah,
let's just about that for a second.
He sent me that picture, and I thought that was absolutely incredible. That the wife's one is absolutely beautiful.
Oh my God.
And, my God, I want one of those for my wife.
I know, I would sport that, right? So his wife says she's promised to make a Triforce themed dessert if he wins any of his matches. It doesn't have to be just any one. So that means Zelga has a chance to affect their grocery bill. In 14th, we've got Ajder, as 14th seed versus 19th seed Christos Owen. So we're getting in the middle of the pack here with this matchup. Ajder says he always skips the top half of Wreckship. And Christos Owen, we know as the developer of Randomizer, 2-time champion, raced and commentated a lot, and did his race at AGDQ. Yeah, so we all know this guy, right? Let's move on. 6th seed, rather, not place. We have PKR versus Hydropower 78, or as he calls himself, Captain Average, finishing middle of the pack since 2018. And 11th, we've got Aussie. He's the world record holder for all games in the Brandish series, which I think is really cool. And he's going up against Chelsea Lynn. We'll always go out of her way to get a potion. Naturally, this means she'll never use it. So that is our divisions.
All right, and I would like to do a shout out also to those who participated. They didn't qualify, but they're awesome people for playing. We want to shout them out. Verts505 in 33rd 34th was Dr. Bobtastic. 35th was Mercer. 36th was Magius. 37th was Blaine. He did 2 of his runs, hence the 2 after his name. Number 38 was Digidude22, and number 39 was Glan, and he submitted 1 run. I'd also like to shout out our validators. Though we had an army of people basically looking at each of our runs to make sure that they were kosher. Cassie Damone, MathGirl718, Reg, Mind of Me, Spy Poet, and Vince Easter. They're all awesome people, and definitely we couldn't have done this qualifier without them.
So the actual qualifier runs can begin as soon as April 1st, if I'm remembering our own timeline correctly. Yeah, there we go. It's on the slide. Right. Hey, look at that. But we have a special treat. Kyong92 is going to go up against Zelga. So if you didn't know these folks before, which you probably did, now you know. We told you a little bit about them. But they're both incredible runners, and I think it's going to be super cool.
And we can now let you know that we have gone ahead and started the study period for the exhibition race that is coming up here in 15 minutes. So stay tuned. In 15 minutes, you're going to see an exhibition race right here on Speed 2 between Kyong92 and Kern. And that is coming up next. So stay with us here. And I will now reveal at this point that the commentator who will be joining me for the exhibition race will be the one and only Pink Kitty Rose. You're going to have a good time with this, guys.
You just said Kyong92 versus Kern, and
what did I say? Oh, I said that.
And I had a little heart attack.
No, sorry, Kern, you are free for this one. I apologize. I mixed up. Oh no, it's
I don't think it was.
I got my. There's so many names going through my head right now. I got mixed up. I apologize. It is Kyong92 versus ZELGADISSAN. I just read something on my screen. Sorry about that.
All right. So one more thing I want to interject here before we transition over is. We have opened up predictions for the bracket in challenge. I just put a link in chat. Please, if you wish, go ahead and get your predictions in. It's just for funds, but you know, yeah. There you go. Public.
Hey, you want to be the best predictor, right?
Exactly.
Start making your guesses, and I believe you can take that all the way to the final if they want to. Cynic, is that right?
Yes. You can't guess on the bronze match, but yeah.
Well, everyone, get your guesses in there, and we'll see what happens in the predictions. So see if you are the best witch, I guess you can say, and then we'll burn you at the end of the tournament. Anyway, stay tuned, everyone. I think we're going to wrap up here, if I'm not mistaken. Any last words from you two before we wrap?
So personally, I just want to say thank you to everybody who participated. Thank you to everybody who's going to watch. This has been a whole lot of fun to organize so far, and we're really looking forward to see how it comes together. And if it does, you know, maybe doing one next year. It's been a blast so far.
Yeah, good games, everybody, on your qualifying matches, and good luck.
I agree. It's been a blast so far to watch this come together, and I'd love to see this turn into an annual event of some sort. So everyone stay tuned. We're going to go ahead and change the scene over to the race broadcast. The runner study period is already underway, and when their time expires, the race will begin. So we're going to go and set up switch over as we do that. Stay tuned, everyone, for Kyong92 versus ZELGADISSAN coming up next with me, with myself, and Pink Kitty Rose. Stay tuned. Thank you, everyone, for staying with us as we get ready to have an exhibition race in the Link to the Past Randomizer Spoiler Log Tournament. We have Kyong92 and ZELGADISSAN, two of our top runners, number 1 and number 3, in the qualifier phase of the tournament from the top 32. They're going to give us a showcase race right now. Hype, 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 get the junk, they say. And I'm Cyclone. I'm with you again. And I'm joined this time by PINKKITTYROSE. How are you?
Oh, hi. How's it going? I'm doing pretty okay today. Just finished watching the old reveal that was going on here and looking forward to what will hopefully be a good race as I've just finished my homework on this seed. Yes.
And I haven't even had a chance to look over the bracket myself yet, or this log myself yet, because I've been doing some setup phase here. But it sounds like we have some very interesting things, like the flute right there in Link's house today.
Mm-hmm. Very first thing we end up picking up, and to be perfectly honest, it's going to be an interesting opening round for these two. I mean, we're probably going to see the flute activated just after this, but there's also a few more goodies waiting for us over in the in the Uncle Drop Down today. So, you know, get to start off with some friendly things. I think I see what Kyong's setting up for as well by killing off that guard.
Yep, it looks like he's going down to the back of Escape. Looks like the uncle does have a goodie for them today. They're both heading straight over there. Well, it's just a heart container. Still good enough of a goodie for making sure you're well supplied and well defended for a run here.
There we go. It's going to be the very last.
So there's the real reason they came down here. They have a sword in the back of Escape. Ironically, not from the uncle.
There we go. Looks like they decided to actually keep on going a little bit further, and I know exactly what for, but Kyung was setting up that tier 2 tree pole, taking damage on purpose to make sure he could get the ones with 4 bombs. And that'll be his early explosions dealt with and out of the way. Honestly, out of the options that I looked up, that seems to be the best one for those early game explosives.
Now, this looks like our tracker is not set up yet for the information here for the crystals and pendants. I will, for the benefit of our tracker, go ahead and provide that information for you as well watching here. I can confirm that the pendants today are in Palace of Darkness, Skull Woods, and I believe that's the green one if I remember correctly, and Misery Mire. So Dark Palace, or Palace of Darkness, Misery Mire, and Skull Woods. The 5-6 crystals are located in Tower of Hera, that's Crystal 6, and Swamp Palace is Crystal 5. So if Pyramid Fairy were required today, those would be the crystals you would need to do that, and of course Skull Woods to get to SAHASRAHLA. Will those matter later? We'll find out later. As you see, Kyong and ZELGADISSAN are working in the dark right now. They are providing, or they are looking for the Moon Pearl, which they found here in one of the dark rooms.
Now, question in the chat, does the spoiler log include the tree poles? It includes a whole lot of stuff, actually. It gives you all 3 of your tree pole tiers, both of the prizes that the hoarder crabs will drop, as well as the prize you'll get for tossing a fish in deep water. Which doesn't come up super often, but it's there.
Yes,
having to do...
Cynic has done a great job setting up all this extra information. Like, the main spoiler logs on the site do not give this kind of information. He's done a great job adding this information for the runners so they can more effectively route the tournament. For example, we know how many digs are needed in digging game. You can plan exactly when to get out of digging game with the item. You can, and just all these quality of life improvements that make things just so much easier to route for this type of tournament. We're gonna get
I'm not too surprised to see what ZELGADISSAN's up to at this point, because there are actually some bombs and some essential little bits of... Actually, we really don't need rupees at all this seed for the most part, but there's some bombs in Blind's hideout. There were actually some in the back as well if you wanted to spend a bomb to get a few more, but I think looks like he's going to be just perfectly happy with the 3. There's not a lot in KAKARIKO in this seed, so they'll probably get that flute activated, pick up like 2 more things here coming up, and then get a move on.
So the runners are now heading, or at least Kyong is. I'm sure ZELGADISSAN won't be far behind going in the chicken hut. Clearly there's something of potential interest in here today. And we see now that is a bag of powder. This leads me to think, having not had a chance to look at the spoiler log yet, this leads me to think that Magic Bat most likely is going to have something of interest once the runners were to get the hammer later.
Quite possibly, though Magic Powder, especially in the later game dungeons, is probably the best safety you can ask for. Just because there's so many anti-fairies and buddy beams all over the place in places like Ganon's Tower and, of course, Turtle Rock and Ice Palace, just in case.
Yep, and it is definitely one of the best safeties to have very, very early in the seed as well, when you only have 4 or 5 hearts. If you're going to be doing 5-heart Thieves' Town or 5-heart Misery Mire, for example, you want to have those anti-fairies. You want to be able to get those fairies in a bottle. So having something like that would be very, very helpful. And I don't blame the runners for picking that up very early, since it is available very early.
Now, this divergence I actually find very interesting, because that Kyung just got right there, the hook shot, I find considerably faster in terms of a tool to use here in Mini Moldarm Cave. Zelga's doing his best with it, really just depends on how cooperative the Mini Moldarms feel like being. But with this in hand, you can just one-shot them with it, and the hookshot's hitbox is pretty big, so unless it's, the Mini Moldarms are feeling particularly feisty, then you're probably okay.
So you just saw Zelgadissan inside the Power Glove, $100 from Thief, and Quake. I'm going to reveal one more piece of information now. Quake opens up both Misery Mire and Turtle Rock today. So that will be all they need in terms of coins today.
Yeah, not a whole lot of medallions needed this time. None of this third and final medallion stuff like it happens in every single regular race.
Yep. I've seen those seeds where Bombos is on the pedestal, and guess what? You need it. Can be a pain.
I'm deciding to pick up all the other stuff as well, just to see, there might be something useful in those other 2 chests. It happens a lot in these spoiler log races where you looked up the specific locations of things, but not all it's in all the chests of these multi-chest caves, and oh hey, there was a bottle or something in there that had a free red potion. Neat!
And some runners won't look at all the chest locations. They will, as you notice, Zelgadissan memorize which chest was which item in the Mini Moldarm Cave, but Kyung perhaps, and I'm not saying it's a bad or a good thing, he may not have chosen to memorize specifically, just saying, I'm going to pick them all up. It gives me more time to look at other things in the spoiler log. I just know I have to open the chest in that cave. And that's all he might have cared about. So it really goes down to runner preference for that as well.
Now, one thing I'm going to be curious with the chat. So, chat, get your guesses in. Is this an Aghanim Dark World Access, Harbour Dark World Access, or Events Dark World Access seed? I'm not going to spoil it. You guys get to find out.
We're going to find out later, chat. And there's our mirror from the hobo. He was, apparently he was a little vain in his youth. So he finally decided to give up the source of his vanity.
Going ahead and picking up the mirror a little bit early, of course. Good old sequence breaks helping out a ton in spoiler log races. Zelga decided to just save and quit because swimming back out of the hobo area is kinda on the sluggish side, but I do believe in this scenario, due to where Kyung's headed next, it is slightly faster to just swim. People can underestimate just how much time is spent waiting for the game to get back through its menus from save quitting.
Now, it looks like Zelgadissan is heading over to the Eastern Palace area. How do you like this play, lady? Or how do you like this play, PINKKITTYROSE? I'll figure it out.
So this one's rather important. SAHASRAHLA'S hoarding the goods on us today. I mean, what else is new? He always likes to have something hidden back there. But what is it in particular? It's the hammer for our Dark World access today.
So now Magic Pad is open.
Yep, of course, this begs the question, where in the world is that lamp? Because we're still out of sequence that much because of where the moon pearl was. But it's not like these two care. If it's nowhere convenient, then they're not gonna bother!
Exactly. If it's convenient, then you have the surety of eyesight. If it's not, then you have the unsurety of darkness, but you're going to do it a lot faster than having to look for that lamp. So I'm sure these two runners don't mind doing these dark rooms without the lamp. You just saw them get the moon pearl out there, for example. So we know that's a sequence break, getting to the dark world right now. Which immediately suggests that the lamp was not convenient to that. Will it be convenient here in the dark world? We don't know yet.
Now, heading on into Hype Cave, what's waiting for us in here as Zelga's decided to actually go towards the Village of Outcast portal instead?
I just realized that I said that the lamp could only be on the pyramid in that scenario. So yeah, that would be the Aghanim required lamp in that case. That could be what we have here today.
That requires the lamp to actually be able to do it. Yeah. But, okay, that's blue mail.
There, that's a jerk for me. That's one for me.
So, Kong decided to spend a little bit of extra time picking up the blue mail now instead of when he goes to finish off Swamp Pals later. Must be concerned about something coming up in terms of possible damage. The blue mail is one of the best safeties you can get, Kyung, also forgetting for a moment that he does not have the mitts. But Blue Mail's one of the best early safeties you can get because it effectively doubles your health, except against a bunch of different enemy types that don't care about your defense, such as fire bars.
Yeah, some enemies don't look at the shirt; they just go below the belt. How rude.
Now, speaking of derps, though, that is one of the most important things in these spoiler log seeds, is what I like to refer to as the derps per seed! Or perhaps derps per second if you want to go for the old DPS. But those small mistakes, or sometimes slightly larger ones, are 100% what's going to cost you the most trouble here in these spoiler log races, because that's the thing! You can't just make these small mistakes and have them mean nothing anymore. Your opponent knows where everything is, too. You can't rely on luck. You can only rely on yourself. I mean, there's enemy RNG luck, but...
Exactly. That is
Dead Rock's gonna dead rock everybody.
That's exactly the case. In a spoiler log race, if you make a mistake, it's magnified because your opponent is probably going to be doing the same thing very quickly, if not already. And you're losing that time immediately. It's not like you're going to have an extra 10 minutes to figure out, okay, what did I do wrong here? Where your opponent is lost on 10 minutes doing something else. You're following the same route as quick as you can. These races, in general, will be a lot quicker. If you saw the presentation right before this race, you saw that we had Kyong, for example, getting a sub 44 on one seed. You do not see that regular randomizer. So mistakes are magnified in this kind of race.
Now, one thing that's very notable between these two, since we're just making our rounds through Thieves Town at the moment, Kyong is playing noticeably safer than Zelda. I believe Zelda might actually have, well, surprise, surprise, be intimidated by somebody who got the top time in 2 out of 3 of the qualifier seeds, and is deciding to play a little bit more on the reckless and dangerous side. By avoiding those safeties, he can save a considerable chunk of time over Kyong, but puts himself into much greater danger to taking a death and losing way more time than would happen if you had those safeties in your back pocket.
So normally when you're going through a place like what I like to call the Sunshine Room, it's referred to in the spoiler log as the Attic in Thieves Town, you see runners open that chest there and pick up the item there. You notice that ZELGADISSAN skipped that. I will point out that there were just a trio of bombs in that chest, so nothing worth picking up. He already has 3, and that's plenty for him.
Also of note, with only Kyong picking up the magic powder, it's pretty safe to say that the powder is just for safety today. Because, I mean, you make fairies. What more could you want? You just go sprinkle, sprinkle, and suddenly you have 7 hearts. Speaking of hearts, Zelda is running a bit low.
And it looks like we're not going to open the Maiden's chest either down in the basement, so Blind Cell... yeah, let's reveal what that was. The Blind Cell has a shovel in it, which suggests also the dig spot is not going to come up today by him skipping that.
So, by the way, since in the pre-show we had people shouting about
now,
Fred...
Yeah, do you remember the comment that I made in the BRAC presentation about how people yell at Fred when the little things happen, even in other randomizers? Let them have it.
So vanilla mitts today, because there was no way you were getting out here without at least having the gloves in hand. So, you know, everybody really likes to see that one when these types of races. Oh.
So now, ladies and gentlemen, today's blind pun of the day. The chimney sweep wore a suit and tie. Your slow clapping is working.
Blind occasionally gets a couple of extra little puns added in, like little stealth updates every now and then. I'll just notice another one slip in. But that one's been around for a while.
It's something I will not spoil, but you will probably see at some point in the tournament. We're not doing it with Blind. It was like, no, he has enough puns. He doesn't need any more. But you may find that there are some messages that might be included in some of these races as Easter eggs in places. You may want to keep an eye out for those. Those are only in the spoiler log races on the bot that Sonic is using. We don't know whether any of those are going to get put in the main one in the future, but there is a pull request already in for at least one of them.
Now, not too surprised by Zelda's next move on this one, heading on up Death Mountain. It's about that time. They've been everywhere else that they can really access. So I'm gonna head over to... Well, he's gonna head straight up the mountain instead of going to the east with the hookshot. So Zelda's on a mission. He knows what he's after.
Meanwhile, Kyung also finishes off Blind, so both runners have the unnecessary compass that tells them where Blind is. Very useful.
Actually, something rather interesting. So, despite this being the first walk up here, Zelga's actually decided to forego the ice rod that is sitting in the Spec Rock Cave at this time.
So let's see, is he going to walk into Tower Hera? It looks like he's heading into Tower Hera. So are we going to get a chance to see what's in the basement of Tower Hera? Let's see, going to the first downstairs area here. That might be the big key he's getting here. There it is.
And also note, Zelga continuing his rampage of just not grabbing safeties. Kyung took the time to go get the brewery hard container, but Zelga, on the other hand, is just like, nope, don't have time for that, gotta keep moving. Gotta grab this lamp.
So there, the lamp was somewhat convenient, just it wasn't convenient to the Moon Pearl. So there's logic of the seed expect you to come up to Death Mountain to find the lamp in order. I'm going to confirm the exact location because I didn't see exactly where that was.
It was the map chest of Tower Hera.
Yeah, my find is not working on the notepad right now. So map chest in Tower Hera was where the lamp was located.
So logically expecting you to access it through hookshot and hammer, since
there
we
it
still
is.
don't know the flippers.
There it is. The Moon Pearl was in Dark Cross. So because this was an open mode seed and not a Princess Guides You Through Escape seed, the logic expected you to get that Moon Pearl after going all the way up to Tower Hera. So just save a trip up the mountain. There's the ice rod, by the way, in Spectral Rock area.
Yep, so I'm not too surprised by Cal picking this up on the way. Turtle Rock is a crystal, so hopefully Zelga realizes to go get that at some point. If you're comfortable with doing the Spec Rock Cave bomb jump that Kyung just did, then you might as well just pick it up on the way, but if you're kind of inconsistent with it, or just don't feel comfortable with it, I could understand picking up the ice rod a little later. After all, we don't need it until our final climb up to go deal with Turtle Rock anyways.
I do see ZELGADISSAN talking with us in chat between actions as well, so I see him watching the race with us as well today. Good game so far, keep it up.
Zelga playing dangerous, and so far he's okay. Just depends on whether or not he can get all the equipment he needs to deal with some of these bosses, despite having lower health.
So he's heading over to Turtle Rock area. Now this is guaranteed not to check Turtle Rock, because we already know it's Quake. We don't have to check that. So it looks like Kyung also picking up his lamp, so he now has the light safety as well. So it looks like he might be heading down. Nope, going past Spiral Cave. It looks like he is dropping all the way down to the bottom, and he's going to go into Paradox Cave. 7 items in here, always a good chance for something in here. Goes upstairs, not bothering with the 2 chests in the bomb area, so goes to the 5 instead. Probably going to target the exact chest he wants after he clears the 3 mini Moldorms.
So, one thing that's kind of interesting about the choice to go to Paradox Cave. If there's something on Dark Death Mountain, it is most likely faster to actually take the Turtle Rock Warp, grab whatever you need from Dark Death Mountain, and then go to Paradox Cave so you can save and quit out of this cave, possibly, or just flute. Going into Paradox Cave first might actually be somewhat slower.
ZELGADISSAN went ahead and picked up all 5 chests there. He maxed out his bomb count, got a little extra money while he was up there in Paradox Cave, and now he's opening the back of the 2 chests. But the item that he really wanted out of there was the Fire Rod in order to get to Turtle Rock later. So that was the main thing he was after there.
So this is the main safety that I think he was after in the first place, was the bottle of Blue Potion. Just a free one sitting down there in Paradox Cave. You have to come in here to get the Fire Rod anyway, so it's a convenient thing to go grab. And considering you didn't grab the powder or very many heart containers, it's probably going to be a good thing. Especially since maybe half magic's not even showing up this run. We could love some half magic, but if it doesn't, then, you know, Blue Potion's nice.
It's a huge nice to have, but if they don't get it, then yeah, the Blue Potion could be, as you said, the safety that Zelga wrote it in because he was getting the Fire Rod anyway in order to make sure he had that extra magic layer just in case he ends up in a situation where it runs out.
Kyung making his way over to East Death Mountain now as well, having finished up Moldorm. Neither of them having really much trouble.
We might get a Turtle Rock play already. I know he can't go in though. He doesn't have King of Samaria unless he plans to hover.
All this means to me is that we're going to be getting something in Dark Death Mountain.
Yeah.
Because otherwise it would make no sense to take the portal, and yeah, Kyung's doing what I figured. So there's obviously an item in Dark Death Mountain, so it makes a little bit more sense to grab that first, then mirror, then grab the items in Paradox Cave, and then either save and quit or flute on to your next location. It's just a tiny bit faster, and those optimizations count in this tourney. You gotta know these things, you gotta do them, you gotta figure it out on the fly, because otherwise you lose in time.
So I'm starting to think, I haven't seen Hookshot Cave yet, but I think KAHSRAHLA might be what we're targeting here. No, there's the flippers.
Nope. Set of flippers. But there's more than just a set of flippers in here. There's a
And a
convenient
heart
heart container.
So now that we've opened up Turtle Rock for convenient access later on, we're going to have to come back up here later once we do have the KAHSRAHLA. So just a convenience opening to not have to wait for the cutscene later. Both riders do have the flippers now.
I see what Zelda was doing. Okay, so either he forgot, or maybe he's not super comfortable with that bomb jump, but he's heading over to Speck Rock Cave now to pick up the ice rod. Debatable whether or not it's a good idea to come all the way back here now, or to just grab it on the way up to go finish Turtle Rock, but either way, he's going to end up with it very soon.
He could be on the way to get Samaria, actually, as well, but right now he is definitely going to get that ice rod right now.
Mm-hmm.
Now, our spoiler log on the commentary end does not include any information on what the hint tiles say. This would be kind of cool, even though we're not going to see them here, to see what some of the hint tiles said, even considering that if they're just for the knowledge if they're already good hints for any regular player to see. But we're not going to see them in most of these races because the runners don't need them. They already know where everything is that they need.
Yeah, so here we go. The slight derps, it happens. You have very little time to prepare for these seeds, so you're obviously going to forget something or have slight problems happen, but it has caused Young to catch right up to Zelga despite him skipping those safeties, so pressure's on Zelga to keep it up at this point to see if he can maintain what lead is still here as we're heading into Swamp Palace.
And they do have everything they need to complete Swamp Palace. They both have the mirror, they both have the hook shot, they both have the flippers, which are the most important part. So they're going to both head in. They're going to work their way back to the fish and chips buffet in the back of the dungeon.
Zelga decided also not to pick up the blue mail at all. He might actually pick that up after Swamp, we'll see. Gotta be careful. It's down to that whole 3 hearts. Didn't actually pick up the ones under the plot in Link's house.
Comment in chat, they don't have boots. Swamp requires boots. I don't know that.
I mean, it's pretty safe to say that wherever they're gunning towards has boots at the end, but boots could even be in Ganon's tower for all we know.
They could be, yeah, they could be. Wouldn't you hate to have one of those scenes where the boots are behind the ice armor, so you have to get the key off the torch? That'd be horrible.
Yeah. One of those things where one of the earlier spoiler on races I did, the very first thing I read was Mold Arm 2 chest, Pegasus boots.
Oh!
And just, no.
That's one of those no hover seeds.
Not surprised to see this one from Zelda. We have a very nice prize waiting for us in the Swamp Palace map chest. It's finally another sword!
Yay! More sharp pointy things.
Now, they've actually had an well, I'm not too surprised that they decided not to wrap this in, but there was another sword currently available that both of them could have gotten. But if you're confident in your Master Sword, Argus, but not using up too much time doing that, I can understand skipping it for the time being. Also, Swamp Palace always has a sword, right? Every time! 100% of the time, every time!
unless it has the hammer in the first chest, then it doesn't.
There's benefits to playing spoiler log scenes for this tournament, that's for sure. Don't have to worry about things like that, you'll just know! So, there's one of 2 things that are coming up from them just gunning it towards this dungeon. We're either going to be seeing, say, the bow to go get something Eastern in Palace of Darkness soon, or maybe it's finally that cane of Samaria, possibly the boots. What does chat think? What do you think we're going to be seeing next?
I just looked up the other sword you were talking about as well since you mentioned that, and I just, I now know where that is, so that's... I have a feeling they're not going to pick up that sword.
Oh dear, Zelda having to take a moment to go get the safety heart, as well as forgetting to pick up this small key on the way into Swamp Palace. You can tell that the pressure's getting into him a little bit. You can do it, Zelda! Keep going! Keep going! You can make this up. All it requires is Kyong to make one derp. One little derp.
Now, someone in chat asking if Zelda forgot a key. Is that what happened here?
Yeah, I forgot to go scoop up the one under the skull pot.
Ooh. So that gives Kyong a slight edge now in the travel through here. He's through the drain room, getting the big key out of the chest, and Zelga has to head down there right now behind Kyong. Kyong actually goes back up the stairway. I think that was an error. Yep, going back again. That gives Zelga some time to catch up.
That's that one glitch stairway. For some reason, if you go up there, unless you do it a very specific way, you'll be too far into the stairs when you get to the top and will automatically be sent back down as we finally pick up our boots in the Swamp Palace big chest, which is particularly obnoxious because the way to not get caught in the stair glitch is with the boots! Funny game!
And with that said, also, we now have the boots, so the speed run is now able to begin. As we get a subscription, a Twitch Prime sub, by the way, from Playa Kane. Thank you for your support to Speed Gaming. We appreciate that.
I'm so happy that the exhibition race has a sense of humor. Between that and the vanilla mitts, we're having a good time today. It's always right where you don't want them to be. Every time.
Every time.
Got getting a little beat up by the water skimmers. Nobody likes those things. They're always in the way in that last room.
Should be known that Kyung did pick up the fire rod, by the way. I think he went through Paradox Cave, if I remember correctly.
Here goes Kyung with the fast Argus strats. If you can pull this off, it's pretty good, but my goodness. It is intense, because you have to first get what is basically a hook dash, like if you're doing a super speed on a set of stairs. And then you have to
got back. Sorry.
Yeah, and then you have to keep pressing the Y button in the right rhythm so you don't accidentally do a full poke and lose your sword. It's obnoxious.
So one of the eyeballs, or the Argai as they're called for Kyung, got back to Argus for one. They lost a little time on that cycle, so a little bit of time lost there, not much. But does get his Calamari served, and ZELGADISSAN is now doing his own play of Calamari. Having a little trouble with the last eyeball. Yeah, having a little trouble with the last Argai.
Just D-pads being D-pads, and it looks like he caught it just as Argus was going for the spin animation, so unfortunately did use a bunch of time. Argus just being a pain for both of them, not wanting to cooperate and get hit by the 3 fire rod shots in a row.
Yeah, let's just say the bosses don't want to die. So we're going to the bomb shop right now. We do have both our 5-6 crystals. Guess what this probably means, everyone? We might have something at Pyramid Fairy today, my favorite location. And the one that seems to be the one that has something more than 20% of the time when I call a race. This is now in that list.
Gotta have a little bit of difficulty getting that dash off of getting hit intentionally outside the bomb shop.
So
decides to not go for the bomb tube setup, which I can understand. He's in the lead at the moment. He only has so much money to go along. And Zelga.
Get here for a second. Quick guesses in chat, everyone. What is at Pyramid Fairy today? I'm seeing bow, I'm seeing silvers, I'm seeing a bottle, I'm seeing book, I'm seeing Samaria. It is the King of Samaria.
Yeah. So it's interesting that Zelga decided not to go for the big bomb play right away. He's going to go finish off Desert Palace and then probably flute back to 4 afterwards. So most likely lose a little bit of time just due to the Dark World screen transitions and the mirror effects and whatnot. But at least he gets him that Tempered Sword for now. Zelda's really needs to go over and get that cane at his earliest convenience.
Now, I don't know if anyone noticed, but I want to just cover that logic again for a second. If it weren't for the... They couldn't find a way to sequence break this, of course, because there's no way to sequence break it. But you had to go up to Death Mountain to get the flippers, to get the King of Samaria, to go back up Death Mountain. So there was another long part of the seed today.
Yeah, thankfully, as long as they didn't jump the gun on Death Mountain, even in a regular seed, you could have mitts for the first time up there and get your goodies. If you skipped Ice Rod Cave and didn't get your hookshot, then that's your own fault.
So for those joining us late, about 28 minutes into this race, you might be wondering how they have so much stuff and have so much done already. We're going to explain that again. This is a spoiler log race. We're starting the spoiler log tournament. Race is starting as early as April 1st, which is in 2 days from now as we're doing this race. And we just did the bracket reveal. We just did the presentation, talk about all the different runners in this tournament, including our own PINKKITTYROSE here. And all the runners are going to be running spoiler log races where they get to see the spoiler log in advance of running the seed for 15 minutes. That means that people are able to route exactly where to go and do things as quickly as possible. We can have some sub 50 seeds as a result with being able to route everything effectively. And for the comment in chat, is that start date a joke? You tell me.
Yeah, I gotta say, after running as many of these as I have for the tournament qualifier and whatnot, it's really nice not having to deal with the worst case scenario all the time now.
Indeed. We get to see the worst case scenario before we actually have to do it.
It's like, I don't have to the last location things. It's beautiful. As Kyung has a lovely freeze frame while waiting for the wall to slide out of the way.
So we're now in the first of our Lamola's fights, and Lamola... Actually, no, second. I didn't even catch that Zelgadissan already did that. So, second of our Lamola's fights, and Keon getting the first worm down, second worm down, third worm, got it down. So he's finished.
So, Kyung... Oh.
Go ahead.
Kyung actually managed to get the 2-cycle there despite having a really rough first phase. The first Lamola, of course, doing a quick hop to the left, which is pretty much the worst RNG you can ask for when dealing with Fire Rod. But at least they had that Tempered Sword, which makes it so even if you do miss a couple of shots, you're not going to have to very slowly whittle them down.
So it looks like Zelgadissan is now on his way to get his overused meme.
Now, I guess the question is he going to feel daring enough to go for the skip? It's looking like a no. The bomb dupe trick is risky, so, well, a little bit risky at least. Well, he's thinking about it. He's doing that instead.
We have some divergence here. Kyung heading over to Ice Palace. Now, let's see if Zelgadissan heads over there after getting the cane, or whether he decides to hop up to Turtle Rock at this point.
Well, it really depends. If there's something in Turtle Rock, then maybe it's worth it to go up there now. If there's nothing in Turtle Rock, then you just put it off for last.
I would agree.
Because at this time, the only thing we're still searching for is the bow!
Now, it could be right here at Ice Palace, which could be why Kyung is here right now. We'll find out as he goes along here. It looks like he might have skipped the chest in the lower room there. I didn't notice them opening that, so he skipped that. He's going through quickly, knowing that he doesn't need that.
Hey, Chad, you don't know where it is, so technically we're still searching. God.
Yeah, we have the log.
Suspense here.
We have the log, but I actually didn't look up bow yet, so I'm going to go ahead and stay surprised with you guys here. PKR does know where the bow is, right?
Yes, I also know several more heart containers they didn't pick up.
Indeed.
Oh, these guys playing it a little bit risky. Kyung, though, sitting pretty. 8 hearts, blue mail. It's pretty much the good comfort zone for these types of sport log races. I see a lot of people go for about that much.
Kyung almost accidentally putting the mirror on and using that as his dash item, which would have put him back at the start of the dungeon. So goes back in, selects the hammer, and does the item dash correctly.
That always looks so smooth when you can pull it off. One of those little tricks that show up a lot in NMG, not as much in Rando, but it's still a handy thing to know.
And Kyung going through that spike. I've seen that used in a crowd control rig where someone turned on one hit right as someone went in there and basically insta-killed him. Beautiful.
Kyung even getting the stair clip as well. He's doing every little trick he can to make this Ice Palace go as fast as possible.
And now he drops down with the block.
Leaving no room for Zelda to catch up as he is just not wanting to make mistakes today.
He's executing this as quickly as he can. This is very good execution by Kyung on this Ice Palace.
Now, Psycho did actually decide to completely forgo the blue mail, so he is playing with fire. 6 hearts green mail.
Kyung has gone ahead and pretty much ignored every single item in Ice Palace. So how's he going to do on the... Oh, look at this eyeball cornering. Nice. Very nicely done. This eyeball cornering was beautiful. Couldn't ask for a better Cold Star fight. And there's some arrows for when we eventually get the bow.
Yeah, just a little bit of NMG boss strats again. The exact same type of equipment you'd be looking at with the Tempered Sword. Get in the double spin in the corner perfectly, which is actually a lot more difficult to do than it looks. Because if you're not careful, you're going to end up getting a poke instead of your little dash poke, and you will lose your sword charge. And then you're going to have a whole bunch of very angry puffballs. Now, I really like this routing for we are going to go get our last item, or at least one that is useful, as we're heading into the Zora area after Ice Palace. There's no faster time to do this than right after you finish Ice, because, I mean, you'd had to flute over there anyways. It saves you a screen transition and a bunch of other pain, as there's our bow
And you
sitting on the
just saw it
Zora
right
ridge.
there. I'm just gonna say it can't be on the Zora himself, and the reason for that is because Kyung only has 188 rupees. You can't buy it yet, so it would have to be on the ledge in that case, or at the waterfall. But in this case, it was on the ledge.
I can at least say that Zora has a heart container, but if you're gonna round in an extra 300 some odd rupees, then have fun with that.
Yeah, you don't want to have to worry about having to buy a heart container if you can just get a free one somewhere else. Unless you were playing a all hearts version, but no.
So that does put us in what is going to be go mode for this seed.
It
Not
pretty
a
much
whole
is
lot
at this
left.
point, yes.
Yep, just gonna go ahead and finish up the last couple of dungeons. This is always the nice feeling of in the spoiler log seed, where you have all your equipment, all the equipment that you want to bother with at least. And you can just cruise on through the dungeons as fast as possible. It feels great because you even know where the big keys are, and it's just like, yes! Yes, I don't have to do anything! I can do those as fast as possible!
And as such, because we know where the big key is against Tower, when we get to that point, we'll ask you for where you think it is, not for a number, because it's kind of pointless to go numbers today. But we're going to ask for a location later on and see where you guess that big key is. Not yet. Don't guess yet.
There's still a chance we could be seeing silvers, as long as they're on the way. But if they're anywhere on the way today, I think it's safe to say we're not going to be seeing any more safeties for either of these two. Now, the nice thing about Eastern Palace, of course, there's no small keys to worry about in here at all, so you can just go straight for the big key.
Exactly.
Which, as we can see by, give the convenient heart container on the way, but with that not being the big key, there's only one place left where it can be. And it's just, it ruins so many Go Mode Easterns. Why does it have to be back here?
Yeah, it is the killer of Go Mode in Eastern Palace. If it's anywhere other than here, you can go a lot quicker in this dungeon. But back here, just waste time having to do all this.
It's a strange feeling having a lamp for these rooms. Comes up a lot more often in a spoiler log race than it does in a regular one, that's for sure.
Why does that seem to be the case? There must be something wrong with Senate server.
Well, I think it's mostly just because Eastern Palace doesn't usually have something. Hurry to clear the dungeon, and more often than not, you don't even have to go into this room. Whereas Eastern can be a fairly early play in a regular rando race. But when you know where everything is, you don't have to waste any time at all. Young's certainly not in the mood for doing any of that. Just cruising through Eastern. There's nothing that's gonna stop this man. Not even his only 2 bombs. Because there's plenty of bombs along the way that he can pick up if he really needs them.
I'm sure there are convenient ones located somewhere in Gan's Tower, for example, because there's so many chests there. There's gotta be some bombs, arrows, anything he might need in there along the way, most likely.
Man, Zelda is dedicated to this low percent. He didn't even pick up the heart container in the Eastern Palace compass chest, the one that you literally run past.
So looking at Hearts, Kyong is on 9 hearts. That's a pretty good heart troll for Gan's Tower. Zelga is taking chances here with 6, but at this point, being a little bit behind, he pretty much has to start taking chances at this point, I would think, because otherwise taking more time is just going to lead to the likelihood of losing the race in the end.
Yeah, this is going to be really tricky, because with Kyong in the lead already after having skipped so many of those safeties, there's only so much more you can skip, man. Zelga's gonna have to, hope for something at this point.
So he makes the right turn and heads over back to the big key room, or big key chest room, I should say. He goes into the big key door. Kyong, meanwhile, has finished the, not really a boss, Armos Knights, and has completed that dungeon, is now at 6 crystals, gonna have Death Mountain for his final climb up to Turtle Rock, and then eventually Ganon's Tower.
Really liked that little strategy with the dash and arrow in the Dark Room of Eastern Palace for Zelga. Looked very slick. Very nice. So yeah, only Turtle Rock left, so Kyong's headed straight back up there. Already got it open in the first place.
Yep, both runners did open it up while they were up there initially. Save time having to do it later. They can just go straight in, go straight to the back, go straight to work.
You can definitely tell Zelda is trying his best at this point, because picked up that pot, but when he saw that 5 arrows had dropped from the red armor, from the red Igors, he's just like, okay, don't need these anymore, just go. Save the fraction of a second. He is trying to spread this as much as he can. And I don't blame him.
Zelda having a great almost nice fight as well.
Both of them getting the quick kill, no problem. As Kyung is heading on into Turtle Rock, so there's about a Death Mountain climb separating these two runners right now.
I love the question, chat. The comment in chat, Kyung didn't even grab that bomb drop, and so a reply, why would Kyung need bombs?
It's true. At this point, there's only one more bomb that we might require in the, well, we do require in the whole seed. And it's at the top of Ganon's Tower, where there's a bomb under a pot anyways.
Yep, exactly.
Because the one wall here in Tuna Rock you just dashed into. Not that you can really tell with that one. Cave walls look about the same.
And usually it's a good idea if you don't know to try using the dash if you can anyway, and that way save a bomb in case you need the bomb somewhere else later. But that's more for people who don't know, might still be new to playing the game. Try out the wall, see which ones open with the boots, see which ones don't. You know you have to use bombs for those.
Good awareness on Kyung's end there. He can tell that when he paused to switch over to the hookshot, he was a little too far down the platform to hit the torch immediately, so instead of firing a hookshot and having the long animation play, he just waited it out. Hookshot at the next torch. I don't even notice that type of stuff. Got on him.
Turtle Rock is one of those dungeons that even in go mode, there's not really a lot of time to save because you have to go looking for the keys. Just like any other... well, in this case, you have to have all 4 keys in order to finish the dungeon. You can't get through without 4 keys. Now, you can sometimes steal a key from the Poke, which these runners are most likely going to try and do. And that way, that saves them from having to get the key that could potentially be on Laser Bridge. That's where the real-time save ends up coming in here. Stealing that key from the Poke if you don't need the item in the Lava Island chest, which they don't, because they're in go mode.
So, considering Zelda's current trend and the fact that Kyung just skipped it as well, I have a funny feeling we're not going to be seeing the fact that the magic cape was with the chain chomps just then. Definitely one of the nicer safeties to have in later portions of the game, especially going through the Gauntlet Climb if you're running on particularly low percent.
I'm glad the magic cape was in the chest and not on the chain chomps themselves. That'd be kind of scary.
Invisible chain chomps! We're all doomed! How are you supposed to know what RNG you got this time?
We're being bitten! What is biting us?
It's more like, I just want to use this Samaria block pal, and wow, why are you creating trouble? I can't even see him anymore! Getting some bad RNG on the double pokies, that's pretty much par for the course in this room, I swear.
Rubbers in chat to another randomizer, at least it's not invisible boss bass. Wow.
Oh, Zelda's actually gonna go grab that cape. I don't really blame him too much, but the low health at this point, it's really nice to have that backup just in case things are getting hairy. Alright, so there's a couple of different routes you can take to go through Chota Rock, and Kyung has opted for the I don't need the big chest route, which has a small key, but as long as you grab the pokey one, you can just do this instead. It's tricky to say which ones.
He did grab that pokey one as well, but I agree, it is, it can be a little tricky because you have to go around through where would normally the Mimic Cave area. We obviously don't need Mimic Cave as part of Turtle Rock. So it's hard to say. I think it takes about the same amount of time.
Yeah, it's an interesting one where what's faster, going all the way over to get the pokey or going through the bridge area and grabbing the one out of the big chest? They're probably very similar.
Yeah, I think I'm just thinking out my head. I think it is very close. Maybe a couple seconds or something like that. It might depend on execution preference as well.
Mm-hmm. Alright, so Zelda making his way down as well as Kyung is just about to head into Trinex. A couple of different strats you can go with this one. Gotta be careful to not run out of magic. I think he'll be fine with the Tempered Sword, especially since he's going for the old backdoor strats.
So Kyung is now fighting Trinex, so named because, well, you can see why. It's not because it only has one neck. So at this point, ladies and gentlemen, as Kyung is about to finish off Trinex in just a moment, let's start getting our guesses in chat. We're not going to play a box. We don't have a way to do this with the bot. And it's pretty much going to be 1 to 5 if we did, probably. So start making your guesses as to where you think the big key in Ganon's Tower is by naming the area or the room or the chest, if there's multiple chests. So start getting guesses in as to which chest you think is going to have Ganon's Tower by location, not by number. And we'll see. I'll try to keep track. We'll see who's right later on. I'm going to go with random room top right. Which I don't think is... I don't think it's 11, but I'll take it.
One thing to know about doing backdoor strats, even with the Tempered Sword on Tridex, it's actually a little bit safer if you can pull it off, because you'll get a shot in on the ice head before Trinex starts moving, which can be rather crucial because a lot of your missed fire rod shots on the ice head come from Trinex's moving around in conjunction with the ice head's movement. So it's one of those things. It's just slightly faster, gets you a more desirable point in his pattern to get that first shot off. And once you land your first shot on the ice head, you're fine, but you gotta not miss too many of them. Yeah, Zelda's going for it as well. So now we should be able to get a desirable pattern for the ice head. The ice head decided to move left on both of them, you know. Doesn't want to be in any sort of clear shot.
Kyung heads down to the right side, and now this could be for a key, or the big key could be over here somewhere. Let's find out. There's a small key. That is what he's going for, ignoring chest number 2. So, moving through to Tower Room.
Zelda taking a hit during the last phase of Tridex and squeaking out with 1 heart.
Oh my, that is a close one.
Ooh, but did manage to get a 4th heart piece, so he's finally sitting at 7 heart containers after all this time.
He totally planned it, right?
100% planned, yes.
Yeah, totally planned. 7's good enough for him, yeah. I mean, Young, meanwhile, on a very healthy 10.
Mm-hmm. Alright, and there's the big key just sitting on over here in the compass room, as well as the gold sword.
So I was right on top right, I just didn't give the right room. And I actually did not look at the Ganon's Tower log. I can tell you truthfully, when I'm doing commentary, I'm not going to look at Ganon's Tower because I don't want to. I want to play with everyone else here. So, yeah, it turns out it was in the, what do they call that room?
That is the compass room.
That's the compass room top right, okay.
Mm-hmm. Since, of course, if you wander your way over there in the vanilla game, you will find the compass in one of those 4 chests. But today it was just the valuable prizes room. Seriously, Gold Sword just makes Ganon a joke.
Big money, big prizes, I love it!
Now, one thing that's notable for Zelda as well, there was actually a pot early on into Turtle Rock that you could pick up for 5 arrows. Since he didn't grab that, he is only sitting at 7, so just 1 shy of being able to deal with the double mimic room. There is a set of 5 arrows under a pot. Maybe he's going in here to grab some arrows? Let's see.
I'm going to give a quick shout out while we're doing that to Rolkin96, one of our other runners in the tournament. He did guess compass room top right, so he nailed it right on. Good guess, sir. Good guess.
Alright, because there are no more convenient arrows for Zelda to pick up. He will have to hope that the ones in Mimic Room 2 do not despawn, since that does happen occasionally. Just be tragic. Ooh, speaking of tragic, Kyung's gotta be careful. Taking way too much damage here in the gauntlet. You gotta be careful, because even with Blue Mail, most of these attacks will still do a full heart, because they do not care about what type of defense you have. So that powder he picked up actually coming into play.
And Zelga is now going to do his own grab at the big key in the compass room. As Kyung goes up the tower and takes out Landmola's 2, there's the 3rd worm going down right now, as that statue is taking pot shots at him. And there's the big key for Zelga after he gets the gold sword. Want to make sure he got his gold sword before getting the big key.
It is unfortunate that Half Magic was not available for this point in the run, because they're both stuck climbing Ganon's Tower with this very small amount of magic. And Zelda's gonna have to be careful. He's gonna have to go the north route, which is usually for avoiding taking any damage, but that anti-fairy is being a little bit spicy on him.
For those wondering, by the way, speaking of the half magic, I think we can reveal at this point that half magic was located over on Bombo's tablet. So that was way out of the way given how they were running that seed. It was way out of the way.
Oh, Zelga. Zelga's in a lot of trouble now. Doesn't really have any magic left.
Ooh, that's not good at all.
Got stuck in the blocks because of the way the anti-fairy was positioning him.
Ooh. I think he does have a blue potion, though, does he not?
He does have a blue potion, so he'll be okay in that perspective. And the arrows did not despawn, so he's good to go. It's usually a safe bet to kill off one of the mimics before picking that up, because otherwise, if a Beamos is shooting, then Sprite Overflow gets rid of the 5 arrows, and you're just doomed.
There's that last bomb location that you just mentioned earlier in Gan's Tower as well. Kyong is through that now, fighting Moldorm 2. And why is it called Moldorm 2? Well, because it's better than Moldorm 1. Why? No question.
And Kel being observant in the chat, Zelga has actually used his potion, so...
Ooh,
yeah,
that is scary then.
Yeah, he has to come over to the safety room, because 2 hearts, no magic, not a good time.
Not at all.
The one thing with getting those safeties is Kyung had full confidence to go up the gauntlet at full speed, not having to stop for any sort of pit stop or anything, and now there's an almost entire GT climb between the 2 of them.
So looking at the race, we're now at 50 minutes into the race. This is longer than any of the 3 runs in the qualifier seeds for either of these competitors, which tells you it's a lot different between studying a run and perfecting the run and actually doing it with only 15 minutes to prepare. So you're going to probably see a lot of races like this where some races do go over 50. The sub 50 is going to probably be one of those gem runs for some of these seasons tournament. Granted, there were some difficult pathings in the seed. For example, flippers up on Death Mountain to go to Swamp to get KS Maria. Things like that did increase the time, but it does show that the difference between being able to prepare for a while and doing it right away.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that's made up on the spot in the middle of the run in a lot of these cases, like just small optimizations such as picking out the key layout of a dungeon. Maybe you don't want to do that beforehand. You want to have enough time to plot your early game, so you figure out where the small keys are afterwards. 15 minutes goes by pretty fast.
Didn't mean to interrupt, sorry. So Gannon comments today about how we were supposed to bring food. Well, sorry, we didn't stop for the purple chest. We could have gotten your lunch there if you wanted it. Just tell us ahead of time next time, please.
Look, we got here in 51 minutes, man. That's good enough. We don't have to give you the refund. Your pizza is here.
You know what we should just do? We should just tear off a side of him and hand it to him. There's some food.
Morbid.
Well, you know, he is bacon. Bacon is food.
Look, the pizza was delivered to his tower. It's his own fault that he flew off to a completely different location before getting it from the front door. So silver arrows were in Ganon's tower, as Ganon just revealed to us. They were in Bob's chest. So between the torch having the other mail upgrade and Bob's chest having the silver arrows, Bob was looking out for us this run. Problem is, it would have required a lot of extra time to go pick up the silvers, certainly more than the 30 seconds they save on the fight.
And even in a regular seed, if you played full right, you wouldn't have come across the Bob's chest in that case. If you're playing the seed regular without knowing where everything was, you wouldn't even know that it was a Bob's chest if you did right side first. If you did left side and then finished right side, you'd have the silvers as you go up. It would be a longer time. This is why they didn't go for it in this case.
Yeah. Because, you know, the good old Ganon's tower does take a little while to go through. Now, I'm having a couple of difficulties with the silvers. Teleports weren't being super cooperative, but there we go.
So that means Kyong is going to be the first runner to finish the exhibition race for the spoiler log tournament. So we're going to get his official time as he crosses the line. And his official SRL time, this will include the 15-minute study period. The official SRL time is 1 hour, 7 minutes, and 57 seconds. So, and can you please break us 3 up? Thanks. So that means his actual time was 52 minutes and 57 seconds for that run. Get your GGs in chat.
But they're already apart when you find them. They have to put themselves back together. That doesn't even make any sense. And just one last little tidbit here while Ganon's flying down to the pyramid for Zelda. Since we mentioned the half magic on Bombo's tablet, just letting people know, the book was on Stumpy. So, would have to really go out of your way if you wanted that half magic. There we go. Again, coming crashing on down as the pyramid as Zelga's will get in his own gold sword syphilis fight. Should be a breeze.
So we're going to see if Kyung wants to join us. He may just choose to wait until Zelga's finished as well. I'll let that up to his decision here.
Yeah, it's always a nice thing about these spoiler log races. Chances are people are going to be finishing relatively close together because of, well, the nature of a spoiler log race. So you usually just get them both in at the same time.
Of course.
Let them reminisce with one another about the experience they just mutually shared.
And what running decisions may have worked out for one and not for the other, things like that. So we're going to have some, it's always going to be fun getting to the interview phase of these races because we're going to get to see how they compare how they did their routing. And, oh yeah, I could have done that. That would have been faster. Darn it, you beat me. I'll get you next time.
Mm-hmm. Because that's the nature of this one. They both routed fairly similarly. In Zelga's case, you can clearly tell that there was just a couple of difficulties due to the rushing nature of the 15-minute prep time. Like, you can already see the difference coming in between the qualifiers and the brackets phase, where that 15 minutes will result in you forgetting things here and there because you've just not had time to refine your run. Yeah, the credits mentioning that our uncle is healthy. That's because he had one of the heart containers that got scorned. People not bothering to walk up and go say hello to him.
Looks like Lifeboy had a heart today. Says he feels some love again.
Mm-hmm. Just a few more. Oh! A little too early on that spin today,
Yeah,
Zelda.
that was too early, yeah.
Looks like he's still gonna be perfectly fine.
Should be.
Yeah, again, teleporting to a great spot for getting a triple.
Always happens when you don't know the silver arrows, doesn't it?
Yeah, neither of them wanted to go all the way through Ganon's tower just to pick up silvers. It's not worth it.
No, not at all. And there's our second finish. There's our second finish for ZELGADISSAN. So he'll be our second runner finishing the qualifier seed today. Or not qualifier, why am I calling qualifier? Our exhibition race today. And we're going to get his official time as he's going to shortly be asked to break up the 3 Triforces. And his time, and I'm going to keep the 15 minutes off this time, 54 minutes, and actually I'm going to do that right. No, 56 minutes and 8 seconds. Math is hard, ladies and gentlemen. Stay in school and learn how to do it.
I'm going to send you back to grade school, Cyclone. It's coming. It's coming. You're going to sit down. You're going to go through Mrs. Burke's grade 4 math class again. You're going to figure out that subtraction. You're gonna
Learn how to figure out the difference between 54 and 56. No. Anyway, we're going to see if the 2 hours want to join in as the Broken Heart sleeps again. Most likely not forever, because I'm sure we'll be there again in the future. So taking a quick look in our channel here, I do see Kyung staying by. I'm going to see if Zelga wants to join us as well before we bring him in.
Oh, they're both on in the setup room, so we shall be seeing them shortly.
They're both in there. Let's go ahead and bring them both in then. So as we wrap up the exhibition race here, I just want to welcome now Kyung and ZELGADISSAN both to the broadcast booth.
Greetings.
And GG.
Hey, GG, thank you.
Thank you.
So this is going to be the fun part of every spoiler log race, in my opinion, getting to see what differences come to mind as you try to come up in 15 minutes with a quick way to route these seeds in the most effective way possible. So how did you feel that seed was from a routing perspective, Kyung?
I thought it wasn't too bad. The boot's location was kinda annoying. You were kinda gated behind a lot of things you had to do. I'd have to take a little bit of a safety approach at some time. I got the blue mail before going to Thieves or Death Mountain just in case, and things like that. But overall, I'm pretty happy with how I routed it.
And Zelga, another note in the routing of the seed that was required was they had to go up to get the flippers off Death Mountain before you could even go get the King of Samario to Swamp. How did that affect your routing today?
That was really annoying, to be honest, having to go up there. There was a lot of things, like you had to go for the fire rod, the ice rod, the flippers, but everything was just very inconveniently placed in how you had to get the boots, which were required for desert. And obviously you just want the boots because walking sucks. So, I mean, it wasn't the kindest layout in general, but I mean, it made for interesting routing decisions.
Speaking of, the whole snafu they have with the ice rod, I'm going to assume that was because you were tunnel visioning on Swamp in the Boots?
Yeah, and so just in general, my routing was a little questionable because I was actually rerouting it in the middle of the race. I completely flip-flopped desert and pod on which one was a pendant and which one was a crystal. So, yeah, so like I noticed that there was like some question about me skipping out on the Pyramid Ferry. And the reasoning for that was because I wanted to do the Pyramid Ferry and then go directly over to Palace of Darkness and Eastern together afterwards. But I had forgotten that Palace of Darkness was totally irrelevant. So yeah, I was wanting to essentially get the bow and then do the bomb after that. And I wasn't thinking about that at the time, that I should have changed that part of the route.
Yeah, that's a lot more understandable then, because that's the thing with these races, is you have so little time to prepare that you're usually finishing your route in the middle of racing, so it ends up your thoughts are completely on what's going on later and not what's going on right now. And so little mistakes happen, such as even Kyung wasn't immune to these. I saw him heading up to try to pick up the field cast portal Titan's Mid Rock without the bits.
Yeah, I wasn't looking at the screen. I was looking at my tracker thinking, oh, whoops, not this way.
It's always a game of how many derps are made in each seed when it comes to these races. Sometimes the derps are small, other times they're big, but they generally take up 100% of the time difference.
And sometimes they come from the commentators.
Yes. Yes. Lamp on Pyramid and an Agaseed, yes.
Exactly.
But, I mean, very good show from the two of you today. I mean, I definitely respect the going for the riskier play as Zelda, trying to take a few less safeties and pull out ahead of Kyung. Kyung was leaving no room to catch up, though. Just yikes.
Yeah, I mean, Kyung is too good, man. And just, I was like, okay, I'll skip powder. I can put off Mayo until Ganon's Tower. I don't need anything like that. I'll be fine. And I clearly wasn't. Like, I almost died at too many places that the time save was lost in trying to be safe later.
And that's where the risk really comes in play. You have to decide how comfortable are you going in a low percent scenario. Are you comfortable going through a place with 4 hearts that normally you might go through with 7 or 8? Is that something you're able to be able to complete in the way that you need to complete it? And it really does become a question of how safe you need to be to execute at the level you need to execute. It really does give a new aspect, if you will, to trying to do things as fast as possible while trying to get what you need to do it.
So one thing I actually want to ask to the two of you, because this is actually a lot more relevant and important in a spoiler log tourney than in a regular rando tourney. I'll start counting first. Your two's level of experience with the NMG run of this game.
I'm fairly familiar with it, I guess.
I have literally never run NMG a single time. I've watched plenty of speedruns. I could probably do the route, but I know I would mess it up all over the place. So I've never run NMG. I have been rando specific.
You do pretty well, actually, for not having ever run MG. You play that is very well, considering that. So commendable to just commend you for that, first of all. So has NMG ever crossed your mind as a route, as a speed run that you would want?
Yeah, it has. I definitely see myself doing it near future. I don't know how in depth I'll go to it. Like, obviously, there's people like obviously like the Zelda, the Blunt Bunnies that I could look up to and see like the way that they do it. It's just insane. But I mean, at the same time, I don't think I would ever get to that level. But it would be nice to see just what I can do, and I'd like to challenge myself like that soon.
It can help. It's one of those things where the skills transfer to and from each type of running this game, because after all, it's the same game. Overall movement tech really matters on the two of them, and it's why you see people like Young and Gerd on top of the charts on these ones, because I like ZERORUSH as well and ACM. That whole top bracket of runners just completely ludicrous at this game.
Yeah.
I would say that, like, currently I'm pretty happy with how my execution is, even though I can see myself, like, in terms of skill level, there's like 2 more plateaus above of me. that are like seems insurmountable to even think about reaching, like the level of like where Gerdo, Eri, and Buen is, and the level even higher than that where the WQs and Zelnas are. But I'm pretty happy with how I am um, at my execution level is right now, so I don't really plan on improving too much, but like for Randall, you can definitely try to improve things that you don't see in MG a lot. That can definitely help you a lot here as well.
Mm-hmm. Those layers of strategies depending on your equipment and just how quickly you can come up with them and execute well on them. It matters a lot. Even if it's just freestyling sometimes.
Yeah, like in these qualifiers, I practiced a ton of Monster Sword Argos because of the second seed, and it's definitely paying off. Like in the qualifier itself, and this seed as well went fairly well.
Last question I can think of for the two of you for now. So, you're both qualified. You both gotten stirred up a little bit of hype here for the chat and whatnot towards the Spoiler Log tournament. What are you two most looking forward to in this format?
I'm just here to have fun. Like I love the concept of this. Back when there were usually like weekly spoiler races at night, it was later than I would usually be available to run, so I never really did it until this tournament. But I just love the concept, and I'm looking forward to being able to, talk with the chat, with the stream, with the runners during the race, and get some, like, just kind of share the community spirit. It should be fun. And obviously, like I said, I'm kind of looking into NMG, just challenging myself on execution, and it'll be fun. I'm just really looking forward to this.
I agree. I think the fact that you're able to talk with the community while you're running makes it a lot more fun, because normally when you're doing randomized, it's like you're locked up in your isolation pod and you don't know anything going on around you, and you're not allowed to communicate with your chat in case they accidentally, or sometimes you still can if they respect that you not to say anything. But sometimes you can't communicate with chat because sometimes someone might come in and actually say, "Oh, yeah, Hammer you're not supposed to tell me that." So here it's a lot more fun because you get to communicate with everyone while you're running, because you already have a general idea where everything is. You've already planned your route. It's not like we're giving anything away in the channel. It makes it a lot more fun as an experience.
More social. Also,
exactly.
Go ahead,
John?
Yeah, I'm pretty excited for this tournament as well. I enjoy both formats, both the qualifier and the one that we're gonna be playing the brackets, mostly because it's something different, very different. It's why I also enjoyed the previous fall tourney a lot, because of all the different things we could do, and like with different things we end up learning about different things, and that's something I enjoy a lot as well. Just learning new tech and new stuff that we can do. Like normally you wouldn't think, okay, what's the best way for me to route from this chest through that chest, skipping all the other chests on the way. That kind of thing just doesn't come up in other categories.
Yeah, it's almost as if developers have spent a very long time making a bunch of different modes for this thing and different ways to play. Things other than open and standard.
Yeah, I personally would love to see a spoiler log crossroad entrance randomizer. What about you?
Yeah, I've done one of those. It was an experience. We had like I think 30 minutes to make the route, and it wasn't enough. It was rough.
And someone in chat saying he wants Randomizer. I don't know if we're going to be able to reveal enemy locations. That'd be something to work on in the future. But we're not doing it this term. Maybe next time. You never know. Randomizer. Chain chomps in the overworld.
Entrance tourney win. All right, you got anything else you can think of, Cyclone?
Well, how do you feel looking forward into this? This is for both rounds. We'll start with Kyung. How do you both feel going into the tournament the next few weeks here?
There's like my side being like the 16 on my side of the bracket. I think it's pretty rough. So we'll see how it will work out, because there's a lot of very good opponents on the way there. But I just want to play more, I guess.
I don't know if you heard the show when we were going through the brackets, but I remember when it came to Sabatender, and I want to point out as well for those wondering, because we were taking a few rips, obviously, some of the runners. I want to point out for anyone who was watching and listening, I reviewed all of the comments that we were making, so runners approved every single rip that we used in that presentation. So it was all planned. But going back to that presentation, Sabatender's comment to me was that he is here for one purpose only: to get his butt whipped by Kyung.
Yeah,
so
because
he knows where he stands, apparently.
I actually watched him doing his qualifiers. Like, was in chatting with him along with Zelga as well. And I said to him that from my count, I thought he would have a pretty good chance of squeaking to the top 32, depending on how other people do, obviously. And he did actually manage to get
literally exactly 32, and he gets to go against you as a result because you got the number 1.
Yeah. Give a special shout out to Sabatender, because I know that he went into all 3 races in the spoiler race format. He spent 15 minutes studying the log before it, and then he ran. So I don't know how many other people did that, but I thought that was awesome that he just went ahead and did the qualifiers the exact same way as he did the actual race.
That is awesome. In a way, it kind of was a bit of a risk, but at the same time, I respect the fact that he did it the exact same way as you would in the race. It's a good practice for when you get to the brackets. Almost missed out because of it, but glad to see that he got in. Now it's going to be even pegging Kyung versus Sabatender, obviously, when they start racing in the same format, and there's no practice ahead of time for either. So respect to Sabatender for doing it that way, and I'm even more looking forward to that matchup now to see how that race turns out. Back to my questions, ZELGADISSAN, before we wrap up here, because we have Super Metroid coming at 5 o'clock. How do you feel going into this into the bracket phase of the tournament?
I share the same sentiment as Kyung. I'm looking forward to playing games, and we'll see what happens. I know that from seeding, it may look like I'm like a strong favorite for the tournament, but with the opponents in my draw, and obviously everyone in this tournament is going to be amazing, but even if I were to get past the first round, going up against Asder, who I have a history with and who's going to be better at routing in NMG style, or Christos, who's going to be better at routing in NMG, it's a rough draw.
Hey,
and
maybe we'll have a showdown in the 3rd round of a bracket phase again.
That's true. It could always happen. Might just have another rematch where I can get bodied again.
It was 2-1 before. It was fine.
And of course, going back to the presentation, you get to go against Quiz Bowl, and whether he gets a Triforce themed dessert for after dinner one night is going to depend on you.
Oh man, that puts a lot of pressure on me. Like, man, do you see those pictures? Those were awesome, man.
Yeah, exactly. I saw that before the presentation. I was the first one he showed the picture to, and I saw that her ring, and I'm like, oh my god, I want to see that in the game. That is just fantastic. Fantastic
Such
design
wonderful
on it.
craftsmanship.
It is, really. So anyway, let's go ahead and start wrapping up here, because we do have Super Metroid on right after this. It's about 20 minutes before that right now, so we want to clear the channel and get them able to start setting up for that. Any last thoughts from either of you before we...
Just thanks for the listening and the opportunity to do a showcase race. It was really fun. And
Yeah.
see you guys next week, I guess.
Yeah, same here. Just appreciate you guys handling the commentary, the tracking, the restream, all that. Just really glad to be able to take part in this exhibition.
And it's been our pleasure. And I'll let PINKKITTYROSE say it for herself, obviously, but for me, it's been our pleasure to do that. Noting as well our tracker, Cassie Moen, thank you for doing the tracking for us as well. Make sure to give both of our runners and all of the runners in our tournament that we mentioned on the bracket presentation show a follow. And follow their progress through the tournament. Races for this tournament will be, hold on a second. You can actually type the command in the channel to get a link to the bracket for it. It's at speedgaming.org/ALTTPR spoiler. Same command, ALTTPR spoiler with exclamation point before it will get you that, and our Discord server for the tournament. So feel free to join the Discord and chat with everyone there as well. Administrators, runners, anyone else who is in that server, we'll be happy to have you over there as well. It's posting our challenge bracket for the tournament in the chat here. That is now set up as well. It's not in the command yet because that was just most recently set up, so that will be in the command very soon as well. For those staying tuned for other races on the Speed Gaming Network today, just going to cover very quickly again, Super Metroid Prodigy Tournament coming on here on Speed Gaming 2 in just a moment. We also have a Splatoon 2 race coming up on Speed Gaming main channel if you want to do that. There are other races going on right now that they might be done now. They might be done now for the Messenger or for Azure Dreams. That's a 3-hour run, Azure Dreams. That one might still be on Speed Gaming 5. More Messenger at 6 o'clock on Speed Gaming 3. And later on tonight, just a brief rundown, they're going to be in Metroid of the Month race. Going to be some Zelda 1, Metroid 1 randomizer, combo randomizer. A Donkey Kong Country 3 race. More Super Metroid. So lots coming up here tonight on Speed Gaming. If you are watching our VOD on YouTube, and this will probably be the first series of videos for that VOD, actually. The showcase race and the bracket reveal are going to start that playlist. So if you are watching on our VOD, all the races I just mentioned are going to be on different playlists on the Speed Gaming YouTube. You can go check out those other events there. What you'll see coming up here is, after this on YouTube, is probably the very first race in this tournament. So stay tuned for that if you're watching on YouTube. With that said, any last thoughts from you, PKR, before we call it?
I think that's going to do it for today. So I do want to thank everybody for popping by and watching. And of course, Kyong and Zelga for putting on the race in the first place. It was suitably entertaining as expected. But for now, I believe we're going to have to bid adieu. For there'll be more races in the future for this tournament. And I hope we see you too. But for now, rest easy. The Triforce awaits on a later day.
And I think I can't really top that. So have a great afternoon, everyone. We look forward to seeing you for future races. Make sure to follow Speed Gaming, Speed Gaming 2 through 6, and of course my co-commentator PINKKITTYROSE as well, which I think that's actually your Twitch handle as well. Am I correct?
Yes.
Yeah, it is. Okay, perfect. So, and then I'm Cyclone or Cyclone GU, and I want to just say on behalf of the runners, our commentator Cassie Moen, want to wish you all a wonderful, wonderful afternoon. See you for